Sir, you can't park here. This spot's for court officials only.
I know. I'm Judge Marcus Ellington. Here's my credential.
That little card? Looks fake to me. You need to move along before I have you cited for trespassing.
It's real, and you're speaking to a sitting judge. You're making a mistake.
Out of the car. Now.
Sir, leave the door. Get out before this...
Courthouse security footage captured a confrontation that should have never taken place. An officer stopping a black man at the staff entrance, questioning his right to be there, and refusing to verify the ID in his hand. What looked like a simple morning check quickly revealed deeper bias, broken protocol, and a decision that would follow the officer long after the cameras stopped recording. He had no idea that the man he was challenging wasn't just another visitor. He was the chief judge of the very courthouse he was guarding, and this encounter would cost him his career. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The full incident began just after 6 a.m., when Officer Mason Reddick took his position at the courtyard staff gate. The lot was empty, typical for the early hour. Reddick stood with a rigid posture, hands near his belt, scanning the area as if anticipating an issue rather than simply monitoring the entrance. He had only recently been assigned to courthouse security, and his supervisors had already noticed a pattern. He tended to approach his role with unnecessary suspicion, often assuming something was wrong before checking any information. Security cameras recorded Reddick pacing in short, controlled steps. He checked the gate lock twice, readjusted his vest, and repeatedly looked toward the street, waiting for vehicles. The lot was quiet, but his behavior suggested a heightened alert that didn't match the routine nature of the assignment. When headlights turned into the driveway, Reddick immediately straightened, repositioning himself in front of the gate before the vehicle even came to a full stop. A black SUV rolled toward the entrance. The window lowered halfway, revealing Judge Marcus Ellington, 52, Chief Judge of the County Court. He often arrived early to review case files before the courthouse became busy. His demeanor was calm and direct, the same presence he carried in the courtroom. "Morning," Judge Ellington said. "I'm heading to my parking space." Officer Reddick didn't return the greeting. Instead, he raised his hand as if issuing a warning. "This lot is for courthouse personnel only. You can't enter." The judge didn't react to the tone. "I understand. I work here." Reddick's response was immediate. "ID. Let me see it." The judge reached into his coat and removed his badge holder. He moved slowly and clearly, ensuring there was no misunderstanding. But before the ID was fully extended, Reddick leaned forward, bringing his face close to the open window and focusing entirely on the judge's appearance. "That doesn't prove anything," Reddick said. "Anyone can print something like that." "This is an official badge," the judge replied. "You can scan it." Reddick didn't scan it. He didn't even take it. "You heading to jury duty?" he asked. "No." "Then you're in the wrong place." Judge Ellington studied him for a brief moment. He had used this entrance for years and had never been challenged this way. He kept his tone steady. "Officer Reddick, you are making a serious mistake. Please verify the ID." Reddick stepped closer again, ignoring the request. "Step out of the vehicle." "For what lawful reason?" the judge asked. Reddick's nostrils flared slightly. "Don't make this difficult. You people always..." He stopped mid-sentence, realizing what he was about to say. But the damage was already done. The cameras recorded the incomplete phrase, the tone behind it, and the context in which it was spoken. Judge Ellington's expression shifted, not with anger, but with recognition. This was not a misunderstanding. This was an assumption based solely on appearance. Reddick reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Reddick at the staff gate. I have an unidentified black male attempting to enter restricted property. Claims he works here, but the ID appears questionable." The judge closed his eyes briefly. In his career, he had heard similar language used many times, but hearing it directed at him, at his own workplace, showed exactly how the officer viewed him. Dispatch responded, "Reddick, what's the name on the ID?" Reddick ignored the question. "Stand by," he said. "Subject is refusing instructions." "I'm not refusing anything," the judge said calmly. "I'm refusing an unlawful order. Please scan the ID." But Reddick clipped the radio back onto his vest without acknowledging either statement. The tension continued to build. Cameras captured everything: the judge's extended ID, the officer's refusal to verify it, and the increasing shift toward unnecessary escalation. A few seconds later, footsteps approached from the side walkway. Marissa Dalton, a courthouse clerk, was arriving early to prepare paperwork. "Officer Reddick," she asked, "is everything okay?" "I've got it under control," Reddick said without turning around. Marissa stepped a little closer, trying to see who was inside the SUV. When she recognized the judge, her eyes widened. "Wait, is that?" "Ma'am, keep moving," Reddick ordered sharply. "This doesn't involve you." Marissa hesitated, looking between the officer and the judge. The judge remained quiet, observing how the officer's tone shifted depending on who he was addressing. Reddick looked back at the judge with a firm, dismissive expression. To him, the situation was under control, but in reality every second was making the situation worse. And the officer had no idea that within minutes someone would arrive who knew exactly who Judge Ellington was, and who would put an immediate stop to what was happening. This incident had only just begun. The situation at the staff gate was already tense, but Officer Mason Reddick continued escalating it. He stood inches from the SUV window, ignoring the ID in Judge Ellington's hand, ignoring the staff members who recognized the judge, and ignoring the clear procedures he was supposed to follow. Several employees had already stopped near the walkway. Some watched silently. Others had their phones raised, recording everything. "Officer Reddick," Judge Ellington said calmly, "you have been given proper identification. You just have to scan the badge." Reddick shook his head aggressively. "I'm not scanning anything until you step out of the vehicle. Now quit stalling." "There is no lawful basis for that order," the judge replied. "I have complied. You have not." Reddick's tone snapped. "I decide what's lawful here, not you." Two clerks standing by the railing exchanged looks of disbelief. The judge stayed composed. "Your responsibility is to verify staff credentials. You have refused at every opportunity." Reddick moved around the front of the SUV and came to the driver's side door. "Last chance, get out." "I will not exit without cause," the judge said again. "You are required to check." Before he could finish, Reddick yanked the door handle. The SUV was locked. He pulled again, harder this time. A few staff members gasped. Phones rose higher. "Unlock the door," Reddick demanded. "Do it now." "No," the judge said. "This has gone far enough." Reddick clenched his jaw and struck the door with his palm. "If you don't step out, I'll remove you myself." "Officer," the judge replied, "think very carefully about your next action." But Reddick didn't think at all. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a universal tool used for simple vehicle access checks, and jammed it between the window and frame. He pried aggressively. The window flexed. The seal popped. Within seconds, he had forced the lock mechanism high enough that the door clicked open. Several staff members gasped again. One whispered, "Oh my God, he really did that." Another clerk muttered, "He's attacking a judge. What is he doing?" Reddick pulled the door open and stepped back only enough to give himself space. "Out," he ordered. Judge Ellington didn't move. "This is unlawful use of force." Reddick grabbed the judge's left arm. "I said out!" Phones captured everything. Reddick pulling, the judge resisting only enough to stay balanced, the officer's grip tightening. "Officer, stop!" one staffer shouted. "Reddick, that's the judge!" another yelled. Reddick ignored all of them. "Stop resisting," he barked, even though the judge wasn't resisting. He was attempting to prevent injury. "This behavior is unacceptable," Judge Ellington said firmly, his voice steady despite the rough handling. "I don't care who you think you are," Reddick snapped. "You're not walking into this lot without my approval." He yanked again, finally pulling the judge out of the vehicle. The motion was forceful enough that the judge had to catch himself to avoid falling onto the pavement. Several staff members audibly reacted. Did he just pull the judge out? Get this on camera. This is abuse. This is straight-up abuse. 3 employees recorded from different angles now. One of them was live-streaming. Reddick positioned himself between the judge and the SUV as if preventing him from getting back inside. "You want to talk to me about procedure?" Reddick said. "Step over here." The judge looked directly at him. "Your actions will be reviewed in full. You have crossed every boundary of your authority." "Save the speeches," Reddick said. "You people love acting like victims." That comment drew immediate reactions from the onlookers. One clerk said, "Did he really just say that?" Another added, "He's done. He's absolutely done." Judge Ellington remained composed. "Officer, you are now detaining me without cause. You have used force without justification. You have ignored protocol, dismissed staff, and refused to verify my identity. You must stop." "No," Reddick said. "I'm in control here." "You are not," the judge said, "and the more you escalate, the worse this becomes for you." Reddick scoffed loudly. "I'm not scared of some fake badge and a fancy suit." Behind them, another staffer whispered, "How does he not know who that is?" The judge slowly raised his voice, not in anger, but to make himself heard by the witnesses. "My name is Marcus Ellington," he said. "I am the chief judge of this courthouse. You have assaulted me, ignored clear identification, and are now detaining me unlawfully." Reddick stared blankly for a moment, but instead of backing off, he doubled down. "I don't care who you say you are," he said. "Anyone can pretend to be important." A clerk stepped forward slightly. "Officer, he is the judge. We all know him." Reddick pointed at her sharply. "Back up! Everyone back up!" He turned to the judge. "You're coming with me." "For what reason?" Judge Ellington asked. Reddick didn't answer. He simply tightened his grip again, as if preparing to move the judge away from the SUV. At that moment, the tension was clear. Staff had stopped walking. People stood frozen. Some were whispering into phones, possibly calling supervisors. The recordings continued from multiple angles. Everything was documented. Every pull, every statement, every refusal to scan the ID. And still, Officer Mason Reddick refused to stop. What he didn't know was that word of the incident had already reached inside the courthouse. Someone had gone to notify security supervisors. Someone else had gone to alert administrative staff. The confrontation was no longer isolated to the parking lot. Help was already on the way. And when it arrived, the situation would shift completely. The officer was moments away from losing total control of the narrative. Help was already on the way, and it arrived faster than anyone expected. As Officer Mason Reddick tightened his grip on Judge Marcus Ellington's arm, preparing to move him away from the SUV, a voice cut through the parking lot from behind the growing crowd. "Reddick! Step away from him." Everyone turned. A Silver County security sedan had stopped abruptly near the entrance. The driver's door opened, and Lieutenant Samuel Ortega stepped out, moving quickly toward the confrontation. Ortega had 15 years with courthouse security, and he was known for being calm, controlled, and decisive. He took one look at the scene. Reddick holding the judge, the open car door, the gathering staff, and multiple phones recording, and his expression tightened instantly. "Reddick," Ortega repeated. "Step away, now." Reddick hesitated but released his grip. "This man is refusing orders," Reddick argued. That man," Ortega said sharply, pointing at Judge Ellington, "is the chief judge of this courthouse." The words hit the crowd like a dropped weight. Several staff members let out audible reactions. One whispered, "Finally." Another recorded even more intently, now focusing on Ortega's arrival. Reddick blinked, caught off guard. "Sir, I didn't know." "You didn't check," Ortega said. "You didn't verify his ID. You didn't follow a single step of protocol." Judge Ellington straightened his jacket. "Lieutenant, thank you for responding." "Of course, Your Honor," Ortega said. His tone toward the judge was respectful and steady. Then his attention returned to Reddick. "Explain yourself." Reddick's posture wavered. "He refused to exit the vehicle. I believed he was trying to access restricted property." "He showed you identification," Ortega said. "It looked fake," Reddick insisted. Ortega stepped closer. "Did you scan it?" Reddick shifted. "No, but did you check the hologram, the barcode, the courthouse seal?" Reddick didn't answer. "Did you listen to staff who recognized him?" Ortega asked. Again, no answer. Ortega looked at the onlooking employees. "They all vouched for him, yet you still chose to ignore them," he added. Multiple staff nodded. One spoke up. "We tried to tell him repeatedly. He told us to back up." Another added, "He pulled the judge out of the car. We have it on video." Reddick's eyes widened. "They're exaggerating. I was just—" Ortega raised a hand to stop him. "No, they have recordings. I see at least 4 phones pointed at you. This entire incident is documented from every angle." One staff member held up her phone. "Lieutenant, I've been recording since he forced the door open." Another stepped forward. "I live-streamed some of it. People inside already saw what was happening." Ortega exhaled sharply. "Reddick, you've not only violated procedure, you've assaulted the chief judge on camera." "That's not what happened," Reddick snapped. "He refused my orders." Ortega's tone hardened. "Your orders were unlawful." Reddick opened his mouth again, but Ortega cut him off. "Enough. You are done here for now. Stand by the wall and do not speak unless spoken to. Judge Ellington adjusted his sleeve. Despite the aggression he'd endured, he remained composed. Lieutenant, the judge said, I expect a full report. You'll have one. Ortega replied. Internal Affairs will handle this immediately. Reddick finally realized the gravity of the situation, his face drained of color. Sir, please, I didn't intend. Ortega didn't look at him. Intent doesn't erase conduct, and your conduct is fully recorded. 20 minutes later, Reddick sat in a small conference room, hands clasped tightly together, while two Internal Affairs investigators reviewed footage on a laptop. Sergeant Hamilton paused one of the videos, a staff member's recording, showing the moment Reddick pulled the car door open. Officer Reddick, Hamilton said, explain this. Reddick swallowed. He wasn't cooperating. I believed he might be a threat. Hamilton clicked again. The footage shifted to Reddick yanking the judge's arm. Here? Hamilton asked. Is this standard detainment procedure? No, sir, but... And this, Hamilton said, switching to footage from another angle, shows you telling a clerk to keep moving while she tried to identify the judge. Reddick didn't respond. Hamilton continued. 3 separate staff videos show you pulling the judge out of the car. 2 show you refusing to scan his ID. All 4 show you using racial language. Reddick's shoulders slumped. I lost my temper. Hamilton raised an eyebrow. You didn't lose your temper. You lost control of your judgment and you ignored every step of protocol. The second investigator added, this was not a misunderstanding. This was bias, aggression, and misconduct. Hamilton closed the laptop. Internal Affairs is recommending immediate administrative action. Captain Hendricks will issue the preliminary decision. Shortly after, Reddick sat in Captain Hendricks' office. Hendricks didn't raise her voice. Her tone stayed measured and firm. Officer Reddick, she said, we have staff recordings, camera footage, radio logs, and direct witness statements. Your actions today were a serious breach of conduct. Reddick stared at the floor. You used force without justification. You ignored multiple warnings. You dismissed staff and disrespected the chief judge. And you made racially biased statements while on duty. Reddick exhaled shakily. I didn't mean... Hendricks stopped him. Meaning is irrelevant. The evidence is clear. She slid a form across the table. Effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave pending final termination review. Turn in your badge and access card. Reddick felt the impact of the words immediately. His career, everything he had built, was collapsing in real time. Yes, ma'am, he said quietly. He handed over his badge. This incident will move quickly, Hendricks added. Expect a formal decision soon. Reddick nodded, but he knew the truth. There was only one possible outcome, and it was already on its way. Officer Mason Reddick left Captain Hendricks' office with his badge and access card taken, placed officially on administrative leave. Even though the title suggested a temporary measure, he knew the truth. This wasn't temporary. Everyone inside the courthouse understood what administrative leave meant after an incident involving excessive force, racial bias, and a high-ranking official caught on multiple recordings. He sat on a bench outside the administrative wing, waiting for further instruction. Staff walked by quietly. A few glanced at him, but no one spoke. They had all seen either the live stream or the recorded videos circulating among courthouse employees. Some had watched him force the judge out of the SUV. Others had witnessed his refusal to scan the ID, despite repeated instructions. All of it was public within the building now. Just after 2 p.m., his phone buzzed with a message ordering him to return to the administrative conference room. This would be the meeting that decided everything. His shoulders tightened as he walked down the hallway. The building was louder now. Afternoon traffic, staff discussing cases, clerks carrying files, but none of it masked the pressure sitting on his chest. Lieutenant Ortega met him outside the doorway. They're waiting, Ortega said. Reddick nodded. Yes, sir. Inside the conference room, Captain Hendricks, Sergeant Hamilton from Internal Affairs, and a representative from Courthouse Administration sat at the table. A thick printed report sat in front of each of them. Officer Reddick, take a seat, Hendricks said. He sat bracing himself. Hendricks opened the report. We have completed our review of the incident at the staff gate. We will go over the findings point by point. Reddick stared forward. He didn't interrupt. First, Hendricks said, you refused to verify a valid courthouse ID. The judge presented it multiple times. You did not scan it, examine it, or follow any verification steps required by policy. Reddick swallowed. I believed. This isn't about what you believed, Hendricks said. It's about what you were required to do. Hamilton clicked a laptop. A video still from a staff recording appeared on the screen showing the moment Reddick forced the door open. Second, Hamilton said, you escalated the encounter by forcibly opening the judge's vehicle door without cause, then physically pulling him out. That is unauthorized use of force. The courthouse representative added, several staff videos confirm the same sequence of events. Hamilton continued, third, you dismissed multiple employees who attempted to identify Judge Ellington and intervened on his behalf. Another video still appeared, one showing Marissa Dalton trying to speak, Reddick shouting at her to keep moving. And fourth, Hamilton said, you used racially biased language while on duty. The statement, you people always, is audible on 2 separate recordings. Reddick closed his eyes briefly. Hendricks leaned forward. Internal Affairs found these actions to be a serious violation of conduct, ethics, and security protocols. They also noted that the entire incident was avoidable. Reddick's voice came out low. I was just doing my job. Hamilton responded, your job is to serve and protect, not harm. Hendricks nodded once and turned the page. Based on the severity of the violations, the public nature of the recordings, and the assault on a high-ranking judicial official, the department has reached a decision. Reddick held his breath. Officer Mason Reddick, Hendricks said, your employment with courthouse security is terminated if effective immediately. The room fell silent. Reddick stared at the table. He didn't argue. He knew there was nothing left to argue. Hamilton added, Internal Affairs has also forwarded the full case file to the District Attorney's Office for review regarding potential criminal charges. This includes the videos, the radio logs, and witness statements. Reddick looked up sharply. Criminal charges? It is not our decision whether charges will be filed, Hamilton said, but given the documented use of force, the DA will determine if prosecution is appropriate. Hendricks continued, you will receive formal notice of termination within the next 24 hours. You must collect your personal belongings under supervision. Your access to all courthouse systems is permanently revoked. Reddick nodded, though his hands shook slightly. I understand. Ortega entered the room again. I'll escort him. Reddick stood slowly. The walk down the hallway felt longer than the entire day. Ortega didn't speak. Reddick opened his locker and removed his belongings one item at a time. Gloves, notebook, water bottle, spare vest straps. He placed them into a small plastic bag provided by administration. When he finished, Ortega walked him to the staff exit. This door will lock behind you, Ortega said. You no longer have re-entry privileges. Reddick nodded. I didn't think it would end like this. Ortega didn't soften. This was the result of your decisions. All of it was preventable. There was nothing left to say. Reddick stepped through the exit. The heavy door shut behind him with a final metallic click. Inside, courthouse staff returned to their work. Judge Ellington moved on with his schedule. Internal Affairs documented the incident for training and legal reference. And the District Attorney's Office began reviewing the recordings for possible prosecution. One confrontation at the staff gate had ended a career, triggered an investigation, and exposed how quickly abuse of authority can escalate. And the footage continued to circulate, an example of what happens when procedure is ignored and bias takes control. This is Voices Unchained. If you watched to the end, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more real stories, more breakdowns, and more voices that deserve to be heard.